Hello everybody, it's Adri. Welcome back to Mother Knows Best. I just sort of got up, so the cats are a little active. I'm sorry if you hear them in the background or you hear me shooing them. Just trying to keep them from knocking over my drink and knocking over the microphone, because those are the two things that they're focused on right now. So I apologize. Today I'm actually, what you'll see, I'm doing 2 quick reviews today, because I've sort of been binge watching Netflix, so I decided to do some reviews for that. One of them was a little older, and one of them I know is really popular, so it seemed right that because I'm really into the series, so it seemed right I'd do a review for that. But for this episode, I'm going to be reviewing a Netflix movie. It's called 1922. I'm sure you've seen the ads for it going around. It's one of those, I think there were 2 that got released around the same time that were based on Stephen King works. This one, 1922, is based on a novella that he wrote. So it's a short story. I think the other one that came out was Gerald's Game, which that's not one I'll review. It's not one I think I'll ever watch. It's not one that's ever really piqued my interest. But yeah, so I watched this a while ago, so I feel bad that I haven't done a review for it yet. I was so caught up with doing the Halloween episodes that I didn't quite have time to get to this until now. In 1922, it was released September 23rd of this year. Like I said, it's based on a novella by Stephen King. It was directed by Zak Hilditch, who he did a very great job with it. One of the things that I've agreed with a lot of the reviews going around is that this adaptation is one of the best Stephen King adaptations that have come out to date. Other than, they've really been doing a good job this year with some of his stuff, other than The Dark Tower, which, because it got so poor reviews, I haven't seen that either. As if you, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm sure I have before with, all the It reviews and stuff, that actually I'm a really big Stephen King fan. I like a lot of his books, so I do tend to go and see some of his works when they're adapted into movies. That's why I was so excited about it. And because it was such a, they did such a great job with it, I gave this one a chance. And I'm glad I did, because I did enjoy it, for the most part. If you're going into this expecting it to be scary, it's not. It's more of a dramatic piece that he did. So it has kind of a more gothic horror flair, I think. The American Gothic. Because it's, that's the year it's based in. It's based in the year 1922. It centers around a man who he's telling a story from his past. He's admitting to a crime that he did. I'm sure if you've seen the trailer, the story is that he murdered his wife so he could keep his farm, because she was tired of living the farm life. But back in those years, living the farm, it seemed to be how you made your way, like, as a man, I guess. But yeah, it is more of a dramatic piece. Some of the horror that they did, it was good. I guess it was, but yeah, the story is that, this man, he gets his son to help him kill his wife, basically, because he wants to keep his farm, and he doesn't want her to sell her father's, I think it was 10 acres, maybe it was 100. I don't know how much an acre is. It was a big amount of land, basically. And he wanted, that land for himself. And being married, he would automatically, technically have that land. But it was in her right to sell it if she wanted to. But yeah, so he murders her. And it all just goes south from there, basically. He gets away with it. It's just that it's more dealing, it's dealing with the guilt of it, and then, his life sort of spirals out of control, and it's almost, a reflection on if he had just moved to the city with his wife and his son, everything would have been fine. He would have been able to live his life. His son would have been able to live his life. You know, their lives wouldn't have gone so vastly out of control as they did. And it was a good story. And I do agree that it was an excellent adaptation. It had everything about Stephen King that makes him such a unique writer. It's actually one that I think I have read. I don't know where I read it, or, I want to say it was in school, but I honestly don't know when I would have read it in school. It was a story that seemed familiar, and it could have just been that, American Gothic, that's how a lot of the stories, are, involving with the farms and something going wrong and stuff like that. Some of the body horror that was in there was pretty graphic and kind of gross. So if you're squeamish about that, there's some animal cruelty as well. I know, some people are really weird about that as well. Stuff that involves rats, and then a scene with a cow it was pretty bad. A few scenes with the cows, but the one I'm thinking of it's pretty bad. But let's see. Because I didn't dislike it. I think my only dislike for it was that it's one of those stories that it feels like it builds, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It stayed very flat. It was a very flat story, which it's a short story, there wasn't a lot of, vast amount of context for it. It just, it was very singular about what it was, if that makes sense. Very direct. And I think that was the only thing. It felt like it was building up to something more dramatic than it ended with, I think. Shit, sorry. That is the creepiest fan I've ever seen. I'm in my living room, so I can see out my window. I apologize. I'll say the things that I did like, even though I'm critiquing the story, I did like the story. It was, it was a very American story, basically. Living that life back then, it was hard. It was very hard. You had to, that was also like right before the Great Depression hit. So it's also unique in a way to, even if they had kept the farm, they would have lost everything once the Depression hit. Because, that's what happened. Everybody lost everything. And even moving to the city, it was just, what he was reflecting on was that if he had just, not killed his wife, things would have been fine. He would have lost his farm, but he would have moved on, basically. And, the effects that they did a great job with. Her ghostly visage was really cool. That was my favorite scene, I think. Where he finally sees her, head on, her ghost that's sort of been haunting him. And she was really creepy. I definitely thought she was going to bite him or something. Not whisper ghostly things in his ear. But, yeah. The acting, they did a great job. There was nobody really notable in it. Nobody that I recognized. But they all did a great job with their characters. I'll say, I think the one thing that stuck out to me most with this was the music. I loved the music. It was, at times, it was very melodic and soft, and then it had this suspense to it that really built up that I really enjoyed, which I did look up. The guy who did the music is Mike Patton. He also did music for another movie that I know is on Netflix, The Place Beyond the Pines, which that has, I think Ryan Gosling. I think it's Ryan Gosling and Bradley Cooper's in that. That is on my watch list, so go check that out. Let me know if it's good. And then Mike Patton also did music for Black Hawk Down, which that was one of those, 2000 era U.S. military army movies. I think it was based, in Afghanistan. Which I'm not bashing that. It was, that time. And it was a good movie. I enjoyed that one. But definitely when I read that, those were the two, because Place Beyond the Pines, I've heard some of the music from that. And then, Black Hawk Down has a very unique sound to it as well. So I wasn't really, when I read his name, I wasn't surprised. I was just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But overall, I enjoyed it. Like I said, it's not scary. It's a dramatic piece. It's American Gothic, drama. It's just dealing a lot with, I guess death and sin and regret and things like that. I don't know what else to say. It's also been a little bit since I've watched it. I think it's been about a month. So I feel kind of bad that, I'm just doing this now, but I was really focused on getting all the horror movie month stuff out of the way. But yeah, so 1922, it was a, Stephen King novella. They did a great job with it. So if you like Stephen King, if you like that sort of American Gothic, if you like kind of, dramatic with a little, ghostly flair to it, if you just like stories about farms, go for it. You get a little murder thrown in, a little drama, a little regret. A man's life going to shambles because he, murdered his wife. But yeah, so thank you guys for listening, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!